So now that the premiere of House of the Dragon has come and gone, there's been a lot more rumblings online, potential leaks, and we've heard in recent weeks that they may be inserting more magical elements to House of the Dragon. And in the last few days, I've seen more hints that an old theory may or may not be explored in House of the Dragon. We did see in the trailer that Viserys I may have had prophetic dreams with his voiceover. So with that said, I made a video about 3 years ago that better explains this and this particular theory when George R. R. Martin himself was out promoting Fire and Blood, the book that House of the Dragon is based on. So here's a portion of that older video to better explain. So in a recent interview with Random House, George R. R. Martin said that Aegon I, Aegon the Conqueror that is, may have known about the White Walkers coming back. It certainly suggests that Aegon I conquered the Seven Kingdoms not just to be ambitious, but to unite the Seven Kingdoms to prepare them for the White Walkers' return, which is of course now in our story 300 years after his conquest.
There is a lot of speculation that in some sense he saw what was coming 300 years later and wanted to unify the Seven Kingdoms to be better prepared for the threat that he eventually saw coming from the north.
And this certainly changes everything we think we know. And he's a bit less of an asshole as well for invading if he thought he was doing it to save Westeros, which until that time, they were still focused on Essos. Perhaps Aegon I had heard of the Azor Ahai prophecy. It is an ancient prophecy after all, coming from Essos, presumably Ashai. Of course, prophecy is what brought the Targaryens to Dragonstone in the first place. 5 generations before, Daenerys Targaryen, daughter of Aenar Targaryen, had a prophetic dream showing the destruction of Valyria. Aenar moved him and his family and 5 dragons over to Dragonstone, and 12 years later, the doom of Valyria occurred, and the Targaryens were the last of the Dragon Lords. In history, Daenerys Targaryen is now called Daenerys the Dreamer. So Aegon I may have known about the wars to come some 300 years later. If this is the case, this is brilliant writing where some of the most important characters in the story of today are long dead, mainly Rhaegar, who is known to dabble in prophecy, and now perhaps Aegon I, his ancestor, if he did indeed unify the kingdoms to save them. And if this is true, this will certainly parallel the current timeline as the offspring of Aegon I Targaryen try once more to unite the Seven Kingdoms to save them. So the current story certainly seems to rhyme with the Targaryen legend of 300 years ago. Does that mean we need 3 heads of the dragon, as Rhaegar so famously told us in the House of the Undying? Currently we do have at least 2, Aegon or Jon Snow, and of course Dany. Is there indeed a 3rd head of the dragon? Did Rhaegar indeed purposely name 2 sons Aegon? He died before his son Aegon was supposedly killed in the sack of King's Landing. Or perhaps Lyanna knew of this prophecy and named Jon Aegon herself after perhaps receiving the news of Rhaegar's children's deaths during the sack of King's Landing. I think that's likely since I don't think Rhaegar would actually name 2 sons the same name, but it certainly opens a can of worms about what's really going on and what we're missing. Perhaps the 3 heads of the dragon need to be named Aegon, Rhaenys, and Visenya. It would be a great parallel to the beginning of our story, and if it does rhyme that way, we do have an Aegon, maybe even 2, at least in the books, and we have a Daenerys. But where is the current Visenya and Rhaenys? Perhaps that lemon tree that Dany remembers that drives us all mad not only points to Dorne, but a Dornish mother, Elia Martell. So perhaps Dany does not remember what she thinks she does as far as her past. Although it seems Dany's past is well known, this new information does make you question everything we think we know, but that's another video for another day. So if Aegon I knew of the coming winter, how did he find out? During our last live stream on Twitch, we did discuss this briefly. In Season 7, Jon found a cave that Sam had seen in a book at the Citadel about a mountain of dragonglass. As he mined the obsidian on Dragonstone, perhaps he discovered what his ancestor Aegon I had laid eyes upon himself some 300 years prior, the cave paintings of the Children of the Forest depicting the first long night, and more importantly the Great Other or the Night King who would one day come again to bring the darkness. Maybe these very paintings discovered on his little island called Dragonstone is why he conquered, or rather united, the Seven Kingdoms in the first place. So there it is. Aegon the Conqueror potentially knew via prophecy that the White Walkers may return, and that's potentially a reason we may see in House of the Dragon, if they do flashbacks or at least have some conversations about the conquering, that he was actually uniting the Seven Kingdoms in preparation for war. So how do you feel about this? Would it better tie into Game of Thrones? And does it give a little more depth to Targaryen history as opposed to just conquering for the sake of conquering? Let me know what you think in the comments below. As usual, thank you for all the support, especially you guys on Patreon. And a huge shout out to my executive Patreon SmokeScreen producers. And of course, if you dig what I do here, please give these videos a like, comment, and a share. And of course, I will see you guys tonight on the live stream at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we will be doing our usual post-game show right after House of the Dragon airs. And it starts August 21st, only 4 weeks away. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.